Hello, this is Rita, and this is me and my mommy's podcast, and then my mommy, and there's me, and I'm just talking about this stuff, and there's me tap dancing, because this is a tap dancing slash autism podcast, and there's a bunch of animals, and I'll be trying to eat my hair, and there's a bunch of sand in the ocean. Also, there's all the soul talk stuff, I love all my mentors and babes. And also, yes, like life stuff and tap dancing. Oh, and also there are my boots. My boots are amazing. Also, there's me, trying not to have a panic attack. Also, this is a podcast about me, autism, and tap dancing, and blah, blah, blah. I'm just ADHD in this thing. Also, there's my cute, adorable puppies.
Would you mind introducing yourself for our guests? Because I've tried reading everyone's bios and I sound like a robot reading them, and no one wants to listen to a robot. So do you mind telling them a little bit about yourself?
Sure, right now?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Leanne Pritchett, special education teacher, a veteran, 18 years, advocate, podcaster. I just try to make the world a better place the best way I know how. Licensed speech language pathology assistant, not practiced, but I'm licensed. And I currently work with the blind and visually impaired populations, helping them with their life skills and analyzing intersections and being able to travel and cross the street safely. And again, my main focus is just to advocate for all special needs and just to get the word out there and let everyone know that they are able. They might be differently abled, but they're abled and they add a lot to the world. So
a little bit of accommodation can go a long ways.
Huge. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One of the things we focus on, Leta's a dancer. We're opening up a dance studio for autistic dancers here in Colorado Springs. And some of the little accommodations we're doing seem little to me, but seem huge to everyone else.
Exactly. It's amazing how just that little difference, and even just that show of respect, how far it goes. Yeah.
Like Leta does not like people in her bubble. Do you, Leta? That preteen glare I'm getting.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Totally understandable.
But just saying we won't have teachers touch you unless they absolutely have to for safety issues.
Yeah.
It goes so far.
It does, man. It totally does, because that's your personal body space. Yeah.
And we've been working on an IEP for the dance studio so that we actually know our dancers. I know IEPs are a sore spot for most of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to take the best parts of the IEP and leave out the worst parts of the IEP.
Well, okay. So in theory, let me put my drink down. In theory, it's supposed to be a good thing, right? Individualized education plan. It's supposed to make it individualized for that person and supposed to get all the accommodations, blah, 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 blah. In theory, it's great, right? But then as you know, the reality is something else, because not everyone reads it. Not everyone is compliant, and there's no follow through half the time. Not to mention, from a teacher standpoint, they're not the most fun in terms of all the forms to fill out, blah, 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 blah. It's not very user friendly. And in my case, as a specialist, you also have to write reports and goals and make sure the goals work for the child and they really are individualized. So the idea is great, but the execution is a whole nother matter.
That's the thing, is we took out a lot of stuff that we don't need, like buses and cafeteria and all that fun jazz, and went, that can go by the wayside. Let's work on goals, because with traditional dance studios, they're like, your goal is to get out of this dance class, and we're not going to tell you what skills you need to get out of it.
Wow. Okay.
I'm like, if we put that in an IEP going, well, this dancer's long-term goal is they want to join our pre-professional program. Here's their medium goals. Here's your short-term goals. That helps us all.
Yeah, exactly. It helps everybody. And movement in dance, well, in this case, dance, but movement in general is really just good for your brain too. And the connections you can make in your learning. So.
And, individualizing, you can't do as an individual in a 35 plus student class as we can do in a 1 to 4 person class.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Very true.
We also, you mentioned all the reports and everything, which are fun as all get out for everyone involved in the IEP process.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
We may have gotten rid of those because I'm like, look, as long as I know your kid is going in this direction, we're good.
Yeah. Again, in theory, they're great, but the reality is something else. I mean, I've had teachers just go, "Oh my God, we're seeing so and so today that have 10 people on the team." So it's going to be 3 to 4 hours of your day. So yeah, it's a lot.
So far, the parents haven't brought in 10-member teams, but I'm sure one of
Yeah,
these parents will do it one of these days.
yeah, they might. You never
Oh,
know.
yeah. Um, Even so much as we had one parent, as they were filling out the form, they were like, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, my kid's not verbal."
Okay.
I'm like, as much as the look on Leta's face, like, but it was just something they're like, no other dance studio had asked me if my child was verbal.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. That's a new one.
As an advocate, I can tell you with her, we never had, I'd go, she has autism, and they're like, okay, cool, I need no other information.
Right. Right. Yeah.
As an advocate, what other information do you think people might need other than, oh, my child has autism?
Not to look at the label. I mean, to understand it, yes, but every person is different, right? And just to value someone for who they are, not what you're told who they are, right? Everyone has strengths and weaknesses, and just to really get to know someone and appreciate who they are. And again, keep it in the back of your mind. All right, they may have certain challenges, but just approach it differently. That's all. That's all you need to do.
And maybe, I know with her, they were like, oh, autism is fine. I'll just treat her like she's autistic. And I'm like, it's a little
No.
bit more individualized than that.
Yeah. Again, look at the person, get to know them, understand who they are, and be like, all right, reading might be difficult, so maybe we'll have her listen, or for example, something along those lines where, again, it's individualized and you value who they are in a respectful way and just get to know them.
As someone who's coming from the education system, because
Yeah.
I mean, I've advocated on IEPs since well before she was born. So I'm like, I can do these in my sleep, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She's like, you're weird. The first time she had an IEP, the only time she had an IEP, it was like, yeah, we'll pull you out of school versus me having to deal with this myself.
Oh,
But like you said, and I'm trying to figure out how I want to phrase this, if you'll
okay.
give me just
No worries.
the the idea behind the IEP is a
Yes.
great idea.
Yes.
What are some of the ways that you might change an IEP if you got to say, this is some stuff that I want to get rid of?
Oh. Huh. That's a really good question. Wow. Because there's so much involved in it. Um, what would I change in an IEP?
Or even like in the
Maybe,
process of making
yeah. Well, maybe just because everyone does it differently. I maybe just have a standard way of doing it in terms of, and not completely, but just in terms of every school system. Maybe make sure everyone reads all the information first, the reports first. Maybe don't have it all at one time. Maybe if possible, maybe have one or two smaller meetings and have one meeting focus on, okay, does anyone have questions about these reports? Boom. And then maybe another one about the goals or whatever. Just kind of split it up and don't make it so long, and be really just really respectful of people's time, because that's a big one too. I mean, IEPs are not fun, and then when you have them go 3 to 4 hours, everyone there at that point is so exhausted. What you say doesn't even make sense half the time. I'd be like, oh yeah. Yeah. And again, I think just a lot of prep work beforehand. So when you're there, it can be a quick discussion. Does anyone have any questions? Is there anything new we need to know? Make it a quick, cohesive process for everybody, and not so combative. And if anyone has questions, everyone should understand we'll do that at a different, I mean, the question's answered, but if there's like a huge problem that needs to be addressed, do it off away from the IEP and do it later, behind the scenes. So like the 20 other people involved, for example, don't have to sit there for 2 hours, or, just really, because some of them I've been at somewhere they're great and they're like, boom, 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 we're going to go down. Here's the thing, we're done. And other ones, and it depends on who's leading it. So I think more training for people who lead it and understanding, yes, it's an involved process, but to be respectful of people and their time. I'm sorry, my eye's bugging me, so I'm just going to look at
That's all right.
because it's like really bugging me. I just want to see if something's there for a second. Okay, sorry. I got something in my eye. I hate that, man. It's so
I have editing software. I can edit this out.
Okay, because I'm like, ooh, my pretty pink mirror. But, all right, there you go.
I love the pink mirror.
Yeah.
I've been in IEPs that have lasted a couple months, and I'm like, by the end of it, what did we discuss at the beginning of this?
And by then, so just, I guess, more clear, concise, more training on this is how to do the nitty gritty part of it, and then individualize it where it needs to be individualized. But just make sure it's a meaning and it's productive and not one of those things where you go, oh, dear God, here we go.
I wanted to pick up on something you said at the beginning of it, like standardizing it, because I don't think some people understand. These are not standardized from school district to school district, let alone state to state.
No, they're not, and they need to be. And again, on the certain respects, on the certain things they cover, the time allotted, that type of thing. Yeah, like have the outline, and then you can go in and individualize it. But yeah, there needs to be more training on how to conduct the meeting. And if it does get out of hand, that too, how to reel people back in and be like, all right, this is getting way off topic and we don't need to discuss the lunar module, or whatever, just to get back on track. Yeah.
I know her dad's military. I've done a lot of advocacy within the military community, and we'll have people who are like, I have an IEP and I'm moving from pick somewhere in Texas from Fort Hood or what did they rename Fort Hood? I don't remember, but they're moving from Fort Hood down to San Antonio, and they're like, they should move with me. And I'm like, you're starting from scratch.
Yeah, they are district to district. I mean, I hate to say it, but yeah, you are.
She's got friends in California that have moved within the LA area and have had.
Yeah, it's a trip because like LA Unified is huge too. For example, I live about 80 miles from Los Angeles proper, and yeah, it's interesting at best at times. So, yeah.
I've listened to some of her friends' parents go, yeah, we moved from school to school and the IEP didn't move with us.
Yeah. And the whole point is to have it be there. So no matter where you go, everything will be the same, but it's not.
And I'm sure some of the listeners are like, what do you mean read all the reports before the meeting starts?
Okay. So like occupational therapy, me, the vision therapist, I'm not a therapist, but teacher, the visually impaired orientation mobility specialist. If they have occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, all those therapists have to submit the reports. Well, for the triennial every 3 years to make sure they still qualify. But I mean, if it's a yearly one, usually they do go quicker, usually. But when it's a 3-year, that's when it gets really, really messy. And then you have everybody's report stating whether or not someone qualifies and why.
I won't name the school system. Yeah. I won't name the school system, but I had one school system that I walked in as the advocate for the family, and they didn't even know what the child was diagnosed with when we started.
Oh, that's scary.
Could you
honestly, I would stop.
Part?
Well, I think what people need to know too, and I've told parents this, number one, don't sign anything you don't agree with ever. You don't have to. And if you don't agree with something and things aren't going away, you can stop the meeting, because what people don't understand, parents have the power. They're the most powerful part of that team, and they are part of the team, and they need to be recognized as that. They're going to know their child the best out of everybody. Not me, the parent.
That is something I think most parents don't understand as they're entering
No,
this journey. They're like,
no,
oh, I have no power. It's like, no, you're
you
the
have all the
parent. You
power.
have, and you
Yeah,
can legally walk out that door.
you can. If it's, and I have had parents do that. And honestly, I mean, I didn't do it in the meeting, but in my head, I'm like,
Yeah.
because it was, there's this word, I'm not going to swear, but in a different language, fakakt, which means messed up
Yeah.
with the letter F. And it was so crazy. And I was like, good for you, walk out. This is not good, and then they went to another district and it was fine.
Another thing I know I have been hearing again a lot lately is parents going, but I don't get a copy of the IEP.
Mm-mm. Always make sure you get one. They have to legally give you one, legal of your parents' rights, all of that. And if they don't, stop the meeting.
The other one I've heard for 20 plus years now, and I keep hoping it will go away, is that your medical doctors, like your neurologists, your developmental peds, are not allowed in the meeting.
Bull. Yeah, they are. You can bring anyone you want. You can bring the dude that works at McDonald's if you really wanted to. If they knew your child and they had interaction, I mean, whatever. You can bring whoever. That's bull.
I think some of these school systems are just trying to get through these as quickly as possible on their own terms.
Right, because and that's the thing too. It's viewed as such a negative. So everyone's like, all right, boom, let's get in, get out. Who cares? I mean, I've had people, you're supposed to have certain administrators there and they're not there. And they'll still run the meeting. And I'm like, why are you running it? You can't run it. And they'll still do it again just to get through. And I'm like, mm-mm. I've left meetings, to be honest with you, because I'm like, no, this is not okay. And I walked out.
And the number of parents who are like, but that's what they said. And you're like,
No. So what? Again, I think really the mindset, the way it's run, and also the parents understanding you have the power. And I mean, don't come off in terms of advocating for your child as mean, because then you won't get things done. Honestly, they'll avoid you and like not return your calls for a while. But be strong, be like, hey, this is what I think, and you'll get stuff done, believe me, because they're not going to want to keep dealing with you, so they'll get it done.
Especially if you know your rights. They don't want to keep dealing with you if you know your rights.
No,
don't
you
keep threatening to sue. But
right, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Though in the case that suing is necessary, go find your lawyer and sue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There is a school district in the area that I can tell you probably, I know one of the judges just assumes he's getting 50 cases from them a year.
Oh, wow.
And it's not the bad school district in the area.
Oh, that's even scarier.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a rich school district. It's the one where all the parents are like, I want my kid at that school district. I'm like, not if they have an IEP, you don't.
Yeah.
But as someone up there told me, IEPs cost money. And I'm like, do they really though?
Well, maybe in terms of federal funding they're talking about. I don't know.
They were the person who was just like, but it cost us time. It cost us effort. It cost us money we could spend on other things. I'm like, but if the, for, like the football team, I don't know.
Whatever.
I'm like, or we could just not go to court all the time. And I bet that would save us some money.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess it depends on how you look at it is the point, right?
Yeah. With the reports, I know I have been in, like I said, meetings where not only did they not look at the speech and language pathologist, they didn't look at anything. I've also been in meetings where they've gone very old school on definitions, especially with girls. And I've had to tell parents, they're going to say something about your kid that we're just going to let slide and we'll deal with it later.
Right.
For autistic kids, Leta would have meltdowns, cry, lay down on the floor, cry. That means she's aggressive. She's in the background screaming hammer boy. And a lot of states in this country, she got labeled as aggressive because girls crying means you're aggressive. She's screaming because one of the boys in her class was throwing a hammer. And I had to tell her teacher before we went into class, because she was in a Montessori class. I'm like, They're
Oh.
going to say, he's not aggressive. She is. Just bear with us as we get through this.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I worked at a couple of them, Montessori's, and this is my opinion. I don't think they're good for that population. At least the students I've had. I don't agree with, oh, well, here's these jobs that you're going to do and work on your own time. It's completely unstructured. For a lot of my students, that didn't work, and I didn't like it, but that's me.
It worked for her better than we put her
Yeah.
in traditional kindergarten, which
Yeah.
was a private school that had 35
Ooh.
kindergartners. And I'm like, hi, private kindergarten should I have?
No. Yeah.
But what works for one kid is not going to work for everyone. But her
Right.
teacher
Right.
just like blew up in the meeting, even though I'd warned her the therapist from the school system is going to call her aggressive. And her teacher's
Yeah.
like, she's crying. She doesn't understand me. I'd be doing the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So this brings back to my point of really looking at the individual and be like, okay, they're frustrated, they're this, let's try to work with who they are and get them to where they can access it. So yeah.
And she had no expressive and no receptive speech, which is
Oh,
really fun.
yeah, because you can't understand and you can't get out what you want to say. So yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, and I would be breaking down and crying too, because her teacher's
Yeah.
like, I'm just telling her she has to go to the bathroom, but she doesn't understand. I'm telling her she has to go to the restroom, and she has no clue why I'm not letting her go outside until she does it.
So then find a different way to communicate. That's my thing.
Well, she was trying to, but the school system had come in and gone, she's
Oh,
aggressive. And her teacher was like,
okay. Yeah.
and I'm like, you calm down. You can't blow up. You're the teacher. You have to be professional.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I'm sorry. Yeah.
And she's like, no, they're being mean to my student. My student is being, and I'm like, sometimes even the teachers can blow up because of things. Did you want to add to this whole discussion real quick, kiddo?
I can't make that one picture. I came to Montessori. My hands got bruised.
I did not completely understand what you just said. Do you want to try that again? No. She's like, I'm being me today. Montessori was good for her, but like I said, for other kids, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, it depends, because I have seen it be good for some, and then some of my other ones I was like, whoa. Yeah.
And it was Montessori preschool, so it was a little bit different than
yeah,
K through 6.
Oh, yeah.
And then we put her in, like I said, private kindergarten, and they were like, oh, she's not doing well. And I'm like, once more, it goes back to, understanding your student. Her birthday is August 8th. The cutoff was August 8th. School started August 8th.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
The entire year she was 5, and her teacher thought she was 6.
Oh, okay.
And so she kept going, she's not acting age appropriate. Must be her autism. And I'm like, or the fact she's a year younger than you think.
Right. Crazy.
But that leads back to, you have to know.
Yeah, you do. Mm-hmm.
You've mentioned you work with the blind and deaf. It's not, it's different, obviously, than working with autistic kids, but there's a lot of overlap on the needs for accommodations out there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have worked with the autistic population a lot too. I started out actually as an instructional assistant in a special education classroom, because there's 2 sections of special ed. There's mild to moderate and moderate to severe, when they're really, really severe, really medically fragile, and that's where I was. So I worked with a lot of the autistic population for years, and people can have both labels. They can be autistic and blind and visually impaired. And there are a lot of similarities, yes. For example, and this might age me a bit, but if anyone knows like Stevie Wonder, for example, who is blind musician, rocks back and forth, which a lot of people on the spectrum do as well. There are a lot of different similar ways that they act, and people have been misdiagnosed a lot, especially because with blind and visually impaired, in terms of social, how they interact with people. And um, it's hard. And people who have vision, they can use their vision if they don't understand something. You can look at someone's body language, like, oh, they look kind of angry. Okay, maybe they're trying to portray that type of behavior. But when you don't have that, and you don't have that to help you fill in the gaps, you're going to be socially awkward. And you might interrupt people when they're talking, or you might not understand the body language or the cues they're giving off. And it's very, very similar. So there's a lot of overlap. Yes, quite a bit.
One of my friends in college got a lot of the same stuff she got about you're not looking me in the eye. And she's
Boy,
like, you do understand I'm blind?
right, right, exactly. And to be honest with you, that whole looking in the eye thing, I don't know. I don't know if this is true, but I read a report a few years back saying sometimes they think it might hurt brains of people who are autistic, or it might have some sort of negative.
It seems to, that report has morphed into a study. I know which report you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
You cannot retain information as well if you're looking someone in the eye, because you're too busy, I guess, thinking, am I looking them in the eye in the right way? Am I looking too long? When do I need to
Right.
look away?
Yeah. It's very, very hard. So that whole expectation, it's got to go out the window. It really does.
And that's one of the reasons she had problems in dance classes, is they'd be like, she's being disrespectful, she's not looking me in the eye. She also has an auditory processory disorder, and as many
Yeah.
times, and they're like, I told her to do something and she didn't seem to understand me.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Wow.
And I'm like, that was one of the reasons I was like, we need an IEP of some sort. We're going to fix the bad parts about it.
Yeah.
But you've got to have those secondary diagnoses in there, because autism doesn't seem to just be a primary diagnosis.
Well, because it's an umbrella term.
Yeah.
And so they use that for many terms, just like with me. And I think Leta, you too, specific learning disability, right? Like I am higher functioning. But, and again, you meet one person with a label or a diagnosis, you meet that one person. So for me, it's going to manifest differently than somebody else. You know what? I totally lost my train of thought, but
I do that all the time.
No, you hate that. But no, just with my specific learning disability, it's been interesting how that works too, with all of that, and how people assume certain things. Yeah.
I mean, I'm what used to be Asperger's, and it's
same thing.
People, and you have all the secondary. You have the autoprocessor. You have the speech delays. You have, thankfully, our parents are so well versed in IEPs. They're putting like exactly what level of grammar they're on, and I'm like, I know that.
Yeah.
And having to explain it to our dance teachers, going, "Hi, see this right here means they're not forming full sentences."
Right. Right. Yeah. That's where my thought went. Now I remember about the whole umbrella thing with specific learning disability. It's the same thing, because there's so many different parts involved, problems with writing, reading, all of it. Yeah. And they just put it under the umbrella so you get the help, because you need, I don't like that people are labeled as much as they are, but you need to be labeled in order to get the help, to get the IEP and all that. So yeah, that was my whole thing.
She had a pediatrician because she's got a deformed right hip. It got popped out when she was a kid. They decided not to pop it in. They thought it just grow in. Turns out it didn't. Fun fact there. We could not get the physical therapy she needed, and her pediatrician went, well, we're tri-prime. They'll pay for anything if it's autism. So I guess her bad hip is because of her autism.
Oh, wow. Well, if that's what you need to do. I mean,
she was like, it worked. We got this physical therapy for 3 years. It was like, and there we go. That's it. It's all autism now.
I know. It's crazy, but yeah, you got to do what you got to do too. So I get it.
We couldn't get her, her allergy testing. A different pediatrician within the military system. Her allergies are due to her autism. We got the allergy testing.
Yeah. See, isn't that scary? But yeah.
It's like, well, that was helpful. But I think that's something that people outside don't understand. There are so many secondary diagnoses.
There's a lot. Yeah. A lot of comorbid things that go on. So yeah, it's like I said, you really have to look at the whole person and understand that, okay, they may have a label and they may have certain characteristics that got them the label, but then you throw it out the window after that, that's what I do.
Just listen to those characteristics just enough to kind of fix how you're teaching them is all I'm
Right.
asking.
Right, exactly. So help you tweak where you need to go, but then at that point, just know the person. That's why I've been so successful for so long, because I get to know the person and who they are. So
well, and Leta also has a lazy eye. When you're trying to learn how to pirouette and do turns with a lazy eye,
wow.
that's fun.
Yeah, I bet. Wow. Oof.
And she reads from right to left because she doesn't do her eye tracking right. And I'm sitting there going, because dance teachers are like, she won't do what I tell her to do. And I'm like, she can't.
Yeah, there's a difference between won't, and can't.
They're like, she won't pick a spot on the wall and just kind of continue to look at that spot as she's turning. And I'm like, that's great that you think that works that way.
Yeah,
But we
let's
have a
try
little,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it works great if you're neurotypical, whatever neurotypical means. I really want to meet a neurotypical person one of these days.
Yeah, me too, because I'm sure not. Not by long shots.
But when dealing with all the extra stuff, because you're an advocate for all this and work with this,
Yeah.
does it help you knowing that there's these extra things you need to be looking for too?
Yeah. I mean, again, it's good information to know if I'm trying to teach a certain way and I'm like, they're having difficulty with the way I'm teaching. Okay. And I have done this. I'll go back and look at the file. I go, that's why. Okay. So now I need to modify it to their needs and how they learn. All right. Let me try it this way. So yes, it is good to know in that respect. But other than that, because I don't like to have any prejudices towards my students or have any preconceived notions. So yeah, other than that, that's the reason why.
I understand that. She's had dance teachers who are like, she's not reading in class because they're making, in ballet, especially you have to read and write. And I'm like, did you see the severe dyslexia?
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, okay, then let's find a
And they're
different
like,
way.
I did have a few go, oh, does that interfere with her reading ability?
Wow, okay then.
Twitch. I'm like, and as we're doing this and bringing kids into the studio, and even our adults have to go through this IEP program, because I'm like, I need to know everything.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, I have a dyslexia problem. And I'm like, great news. That means I need to teach you differently on turns, because dyslexia has a lot of eye tracking issues, obviously.
Yes. Yes. I mean, even with me when I'm driving, if I know where I'm going, I still have my phone on, my GPS, because sometimes I'll flip it or like whatever, right? If I'm stressed out.
So with dancers, this is really weird. And I continuously have lectured dance teachers, even my friends who she does not have as teachers, going, hi, did you understand dyslexia will actually flip which foot you go on?
Yeah, it will.
And
Completely.
so I will be yelling at her other right foot, and they're like, but she should have known that. I'm like,
Really?
no.
No. There's no shoulds. That's why I tell people there's no shoulds.
Yeah.
You have to be in the moment where they're at, and that's it.
This is also going to sound weird, because we're allowing, if you have a service dog, obviously certification is not something we do in the lower 48. That's a Canadian thing, because people are like, so did you get their certification? I'm like, did you read the ADA? We're allowing service dogs in. A lot of other places, especially right now, are not allowing service dogs in.
Yeah.
How's that working with who you're working with?
Okay, so my people usually have guide dogs for the blind or something, one of those organizations.
Yep.
So far so good. Usually I think there's been more awareness of it now in terms of that aspect of it for guide dogs, so it's okay. I haven't had people, actually wait, no, I take it back. I have had a client where her guide dog was denied somewhere, and she did have to appeal it and let them know, hey, this is part of me. This is how I get around. So it does happen here or there, even with guide dogs. But there was a documentary a few years back about puppy raising for guide dogs on Netflix. And so people are a little bit more aware of that. And I think there's even like a guide dog Barbie or something along those lines. So It is out there a bit, but yeah, it still does happen, and people aren't as understanding as they should be about it, or could
The
be.
awareness in all this, I think, is the
Mhm.
biggest issue we have.
Yes, yes, because it's not just their dog they're taking in off the street or something, bringing with them, or their pet, which, I understand people might get confused, but yeah, it
I,
shouldn't be that way.
having had friends with guide dogs, and with a
Mhm.
few of my friends have seizures, and the dogs who are
Mhm.
helping with their seizures and everything,
They're
it'd
amazing.
be a lot cheaper to just bring in a dog off the street.
Honestly, yeah, it would. I agree with you completely. It totally would.
I don't think people understand how much money, even if you're self training, you don't self
Yeah.
train on your own.
No. Mm-mm. No, guide dog training, especially with blind and visually impaired, you have to have really good, this is what I do for a living, orientation and mobility skills. You have to know where you are in your environment. You have to know how to get around, because you're also with another living being, the dog. And yes, the dog is trained, but only to a degree. You still have to understand where you're going, where you are in your environment, all of that first before you even get a dog. And it's intensive training, the dogs themselves, and then once you get the dog. So it's not just like lickety split, an easy thing. It's not easy in any way.
We have a dog training facility here in town that does a lot of PTSD therapy
Mhm.
dogs,
Cool.
and they'll do the self training, and
Mhm.
I'm putting that because you still have someone coming out and working
Yeah,
with you with the self training and everything, which I
right.
don't think people understand. Self training isn't you just training up the
No.
dog.
Oh, no, 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 no. Mm-mm. Not
And
at
the
all.
self training's only $15,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are not cheap, and to get a fully trained one's like 35, 45,000.
Right, right. It's not cheap at all. No, no, no. Mm.
These are I hate calling them medical devices because they are breathing beings, but they're pretty
Right.
much medical devices.
They are. Hmm. Absolutely.
And we had like some of the dance studios in town are like, well, won't the dog like interfere in class? And I'm like,
Nope.
a fully trained dog is going
Will
to
not.
sit where they've been told to sit.
Yeah. They'll just sit and hang out. That's it. Maybe like you might have to take them to the bathroom every once in a while, but that's it.
Yeah, if a kid's in an hour-long class, I'm pretty sure we can make that work for the
Oh,
bathroom.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it's not like the dog is, as long as that vest or whatever they've learned, this means I'm on duty, is
Right.
on.
And I'm working. Hmm. Yep.
Um, because I know we've had problems here in town with, like I said, the other dance studios. They're like, but why would you want to bring your pet? And I'm like, this is not a pet.
It's not a pet. Mm-mm. Big difference.
um, we've also had, there's been a lot of adaptable dance classes in town, which are
Mhm.
great and wonderful, but we're trying to do a pre-professional program to show that these kids can actually go pro.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Why not?
um, well, you'd see a lot of people, and she's going to get annoyed at this, keep going, but autistic kids only are about a toddler when they quit, their brain quits maturing and their mental capacity stop.
Well, look at that guy who won American Idol that was autistic
Yeah.
and blind. I'm like, he did it. I'm like, so what?
And I'm
People
sure
do it differently.
your clients get the same thing of, oh, you must be.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, you're visually impaired. You can't do this. You can't do this. Why can't they? Like that's always my thing. My comeback. Why can't they? They might have to do it differently. Like people were surprised because one of my clients baked a cake and they said, oh, they can bake, they can cook. I said, yes, why can't they? I said, it might be different, but hey. So, and it was better than like stuff I bought in the store. I'm just like, different isn't, it's just different. So what? You know?
The only thing I keep telling one of my friends is, no, you cannot drive a Tesla. You're legally blind.
Yeah. I mean, there is stuff like that. Yes, of
But
course.
other than
Different
that,
things,
she's
but
like,
hmm
we've known each other 30 years, so I give her a
oh
hard time.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are limitations for all of us, no matter who you
Yeah.
are. But there are many things that you can do. I tell people they're differently abled. That's it.
Yeah. I think the special needs label needs to go away because people see special needs as special. You want to jump in on that one, Kit?
The only thing I'm gonna say is if you're blind, I'm not gonna tell you to tell me what color something is. I'm just saying. That's the only thing
Yeah,
you cannot do. Is tell me what color something is. That's the
not
only
by
thing you
eyesight.
cannot do.
Right. You're right. By eyesight, they cannot if you're legally blind, but they do have clothing with like braille labels and stuff. So if they can feel it and it says navy or something, then they can tell you if they feel it, but not by eyesight. You are
I,
correct about that.
I have my friend from college that
Mhm.
I was young. She can touch paint and get you what shade it is.
Right. Or because they're using their different senses.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Or by feel or by texture. Yeah. Hmm.
But I know a lot of people, especially around here, and not just around here. I like to say stuff around here because that's where we're living right now. But
Yeah.
they keep going, well, it's not like they can do it, like you said. And all the
Mhm.
differently abled groups are being lumped together. And
Yeah.
you kind of somewhat do need to, not that they need to be separated, but
Mhm.
autism is not blindness, is not being in a wheelchair.
Right. 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 You do need to
So,
understand that. Yeah. Yeah, that's
because,
that's where the catch 22 is, because you do need to understand the differences, but then not look at the concentrate on the differences so
yeah.
much. Again, just understand that it might be a challenge in this area and here's why, but everybody's different, so it's a very tough road. It really
We've
is.
got a studio in town that has a great heart for special needs, and for the differently abled, but
Mhm.
everyone running their program is typically abled and neurotypical.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they've got like the wheelchair students and the Parkinson dancers and the autistic dancers and the Down syndrome dancers. They've all lumped into one class.
Yeah, they do that a lot here too.
And
um
it's like,
yeah,
I'm
it's a
not
lot.
saying, yeah, I'm like, they can perform, but when you're trying to learn how to dance in wheelchairs, it's a totally
Yeah.
different skill set than,
Hmm. Yeah, I get that. Mhm. Yeah, they do
and
that a lot in the school system here too, in the special needs classrooms. They just all throw them in. Yeah.
they did that when I was a child too.
Yeah. They just throw them all in and say, there you go. Yeah.
And it's like, some of us learn a little differently than others do.
Hmm. My parents had me privately tutored. That's why. Because they're like, no, we want this completely individualized. Not this reading group once a week thing. Yeah. Mm-mm.
And yeah, no, I understand that. But we've been fighting that with the different studios in town. They really do have a heart, but like I said, they're not being led by someone who's autistic or someone who
Mhm.
is differently abled. And they're like, but how is it different teaching an autistic kid than, say, an adult with Parkinson's disease?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it's like, you throw out the labels, but don't throw out the labels. I know I'm asking,
Yeah. 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 I agree. I totally agree with that completely.
and I know I can't speak for Parkinson's because I just have friends with Parkinson's. I am not
Mhm.
an expert on Parkinson's, but with our kids and our adults, we have much smaller class sizes because,
Mhm.
not having 20, 30 kids in a class is helpful.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd want 20 neurotypical preschoolers running around in a class.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
And the other studios in town, their classes have 20 to 25 neurodiverse kids in the class.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
they're
a
like,
lot.
what's the difference? And I'm like, you need individualized. And if I have 4 kids in a class and 2 teachers, I can individualize better.
Yeah. And especially in classrooms, they'll do that. And then they'll have like aides and they think that's good enough, like 4 or 5 aides, which it's better than nothing. But I don't think it really meets the needs all the time.
Well, and their teacher assistants at the other studio are teenagers and high school students.
Okay.
And I'm
Got
like,
it.
and
Yeah.
that's typical for traditional dance studios. Your preschool
Yeah.
classes, you have those teenagers helping.
Mhm.
It's a little different when you're talking the autistic community or the blind community, unless
Mhm.
they're in the community and have shown that they can do it.
Right.
But to bring in
Right.
a child who's not trained and throw them in that. I'm like, that doesn't sound fair to the high schoolers either.
Not at all. Not at all.
And we're having 2 teachers in as many classes as we can fundraise to have 2 teachers in that class.
Right, right.
And having 2 over 18-year-olds who have been in the meetings kind of help.
Yeah.
This one's going to sound weird because we have you can go have a meltdown policy in our studio, because if you're going to get, I mean, I have had those moments where I'm like, I'm going to go meltdown now. Thank you very much. Bye. Most of the other dance studios, that's a ding on your record for having a meltdown.
Oh, okay. No, I actually think that's a good thing. I do.
That was what I was going to ask. As someone who's been in the community on the other side as a teacher and everything, is having a space for them to go deregulate on their own a good idea for kids like this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've had too much sensory input before, and certain situations I've had to leave. For example, I was at a restaurant with some friends a while back, and there was just too much going on. I'm like, I gotta go. It's too much, and we all need that space just to decompress and just be ourselves for a bit. So yes, I think it's very, very essential for everybody to have that.
Having a space to decompress, and for the kids and the adults, because we do have adult classes, and that seems to be very popular. Because I don't think people understand all the other autism classes are like till 8. I'm not sure what happens after you turn 8.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's because kids, they are maturing quicker now, so I'm not sure if that's what they figured. Because I do know some kids that puberty does hit that young. And I don't know if that's what they're figuring. I have no idea.
Autism doesn't seem to disappear after 8.
No, it's part of you. It's there. So, yeah, I don't get that.
But like, there are the fact that we have adult classes for autistic people from level 1 to level 3, which explaining those levels is fun to people who aren't in the community, it turns out.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not what you think. Because you're like, oh, level 2 can't function. I'm like, even level 3 can function. That's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah, no, everybody can function. It's just, yeah.
But even like, where was I going? I lost my train of thought.
Your turn.
My turn. And Leta's like, I am so tired of hearing IEPs over the last 13 years of my life. I've been hearing about them since before I was born. I like your braid. Yes.
That's cool, actually. Good job, Leta. I like it too. It's cool.
And she's heard about these so often because I do them so much. She actually came up with some stuff because she's like, hey, Mom, you didn't put sensory issues in here. And
cool. Good.
Because it sounds stupid to people outside the community, but velvet is a very common fabric for dance costumes.
Oh, velvet. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And velvet is, would you like to explain it, Leta?
And some people are allergic to it. Don't forget about that part.
There are people who are allergic to velvet, and autistic people don't seem to like velvet for some reason. It's a texture issue.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I remember when I first started that, I had never heard of that. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay. It was a learning experience for me too. And yes. And not a lot of people have that, and you have to be very sensitive to it.
Well, and having that on the IEP, like she said, when it comes time to buy costumes, we can go, oh, no velvet, no this, no that.
Mm-hmm.
She absolutely hates anything tight. She wears no pants. She wears nothing with shirts on it. We live in Colorado. That works well for all of us. It'll be a blizzard outside, and she's wearing what she's wearing right now.
Well, I feel you, because I'm wearing a big comfy shirt. Same thing, That's what I like.
Go ahead, Leta.
At least I wear a sweatshirt. You don't even wear something appropriate for outside. You just wear pants and a light as hell jacket.
I'm sorry, that was funny.
Thanks for throwing me under the bus here, kiddo.
Oh my gosh, Leta, that's hilarious. Look at she's laughing. She's like,
oh yeah.
Called you out, Mom.
She did. She threw me under the bus there. But like, we've had to explain to parents coming in from traditional studios, Leta takes ballet because she has to, because she wants to go pro in tap, and ballet is a necessity even if she hates it.
Right.
But she absolutely cannot stand tights or leotards or the ballet slippers. Guess who's not wearing them in class?
The teachers, the people who will tell me that I have to wear them. What the hell? Oh,
So the teachers never wear these in class, but they make the kids wear them in class. And I've told a few of our neurotypical teachers who are like, how do I figure out lines and stuff? I'm like, you can figure it out. They're not going to
Yeah.
be wear.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've seen this, but if you try and force a kid or an adult into something they're not comfortable in,
Doesn't work. Not going to happen. Nope.
and I know traditional studios are like, well, then how's she going to learn? I'm like, she might learn a little bit better. So might they all, if they're not in
Forced.
forced stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she might not. Couple recitals ago at one of her neurotypical studios, the teacher did not check the costume. And she hasn't figured out where I'm going with the story yet, or she'd have her microphone up. And she's always been with the high schoolers, even though she's not in high school yet. And she's like the little 5th or 6th grader. I can't remember where she was. And she's like, neener, neener, boo, boo. Now you guys get to understand what sensory issues are, because the sequence went all the way around the leotard.
Present, I have a thing called actual educated language that would be able to as a kids in class. I just be
But
shush. They get to feel hot love and pain now too. I don't care about their whining. They sound like freaking toddlers. At least I was whining and saying actual facts. Well, they were just saying like a beloved toddlers speaking gibberish. But yeah.
the sequence went inside their groin area and was rubbing against their groin. And so she was having a little bit of fun, like, you get to understand what sensory issues are now.
Yeah.
And as mom, part of me is like, don't be mean. But the other part is like, but I understand where you're coming from.
Totally. Oh, man. Oof.
Well, I promised you we would only go an hour, and we were at like the 52-minute mark.
Oh, wow. Already.
I know. We're going to have to. I'm. If you're okay with it, Leanne, we'd love to have you on again sometime.
Yes, I would love it. Anytime.
Definitely. So expect an email from me in a few months going, hey, remember us?
I will totally remember you guys. Yeah, thank you. This has been great.
This has been amazing. Where can people find you on the web and social media?
Okay, I'm trying to think. So if you go to swellcast.com/themissleanne, you can find me there. And social media, I've had some weird stuff go on with Instagram. So
haven't we all?
Yeah, no, I have like all these weird celebrity impersonators trying to follow me and like weird stuff. So I'm just like, So just by name, Leanne Pritchett at facebook.com. You can find me on there.
Okay. We'll have those in the description below. And of course, like usual, all of our guests, you can find their bios on our website at letastapstyles.com. So everything will be on there. Thanks so much for coming on, Leanne. We had an amazing time.
Yes, definitely. Thank you both.
Thanks. Leta, can you say bye?
Bye.
Bye, Leta. Thanks for coming.
All right.
Hello, thank you for watching the podcast, and please subscribe, and also look at the adorable paper. So if you want to subscribe for it, and also please leave a like, and don't forget, if you subscribe to our stuff, you won't miss any of our new podcast stuffies. And also, did you see the adorable paper? Don't you like it?